The motion clip he did delete. The night the door camera said 1912. At 9 to 10 p.m., my email blinked like it had learned my pulse. Motion detected, the subject said, as cheerful as a receptionist. The sender was a building automation address I hadn't looked at since we moved out of the old studio downtown, the one with the temperamental elevator and the door viewer you could trigger from your phone. Against the tiny thumbnail, a figure stood in a hallway I recognized by its ugly blue runner. The time stamp at the corner read 9:06 p.m. The next line, because software prefers politeness to mercy, said Sweet 1912. Ethan had left an hour earlier with the jacket that flatters him even when mirrors have other opinions, the kiss you give a life you expect to be exactly where you put it down. Wrap toast, he'd said, 2 words that make celebration sound like a calendar entry. Then notes with Mateo. Don't wait, Mateo. Sound design. The sort of man whose hands always appear to be listening. I watched the clip because there are nights you trust what a rectangle tells you more than what the room tries to remember. The video was 10 seconds of hallway and a reflection. The door opened, but the angle of the peephole only showed the back of a shoulder and the flash of another body moving closer. The last frame froze on the sweep of a wrist as someone lifted a room service cart over a threshold that was not ours. I stood at the sink with my fingers curled around its cold rim and let the kitchen pick a temperature. In the oven, a cinnamon thing made promises sugar is famous for breaking. The apartment had that careful quiet it wears when it's ready to choose sides. I put my phone face down the way we say we'll do on good days, then turned it over again because I wanted to misbehave correctly and on purpose. The motion clip attached itself to my decision like a polite witness. I slid it into my pocket and left. The hotel across from the studio is called the Meridian, the sort of place where brass learns restraint and plants learn posture. A pianist in the lobby practiced the absence of blame. The concierge glanced at me with the practiced mercy of a person who counts confessions like tips and spends neither in front of you. Elevators forgive a lot if your shoulders remember how to carry certainty. I gave the mirror my face and rode up with the kind of quiet that buys you 30 seconds of anonymity per floor. 19 smelled like carpet steam and expensive effort. Numbers along the wall glowed like resumes. Outside 1912 I stopped because I am not a headline and I prefer not to be brave after 9. I texted him, "Tea when you get home." It is amazing how often I translate anger into something that can sit in a cup. 3 dots appeared, vanished, returned, the shy animal routine of a man rehearsing honesty. Maybe, he wrote, don't wait, might go late. A heart arrived as if punctuation could be a container. The lock clicked with the kind of kindness metal learns when it's been paid to forgive. The door opened on a rectangle of warm light. Ethan stepped out with the careful surprise of a man who has practiced not being surprising. He pulled the door closed behind him like you close a book you aren't sure you're done with. He saw me because love is a fast algorithm. Then he saw his own reflection in my face and knew which story we were inside. "Noah," he said, my name with the softness of a receipt. "The camera in the old studio misses us," I said, because jokes are the leash I use to keep panic from running into traffic. "It sent me a 10-second love letter about your evening." He looked at the floor the way men try to find a smaller version of themselves to be. He was already turning toward the end of the hall, toward the service balcony where air doesn't lie as well. "Not here," he said. "There's a terrace. It remembers how to listen." The terrace was a glass rectangle attached to the hotel's lungs. Ductwork hummed like anxious crickets. A small round table waited like a witness who had been coached to keep its mouth shut. The city below rehearsed weather. He put both hands on the rail, then opened them as if unfolding a plan he didn't want to see finished. "I lied when I left," he said. The sentence had no adjectives. It didn't need help. Rap happened. People did their best grammar at goodbye. Then I told myself I wanted 30 minutes where wanting wasn't a thing I had to explain. "Mateo," I said, "because names are handles and I like my hands full when the room tilts." He nodded. He hears me when I turn myself down. "Are you sleeping with him?" The question is a cliff. There isn't a scenic route. You count to one and walk up to it. "Not yet," he said, clean, immediate. Then lower, the honesty that knows exactly which muscle to bruise. "I brought my mouth." Steam lifted from nowhere and found the opening at my throat like it had paid for the view. The glass beside us reflected our shapes, thinner than truth. I lifted 2 fingers to the place at his wrist where men keep their apologies and found his pulse writing my name without permission. His eyes closed the way you close a door that still wants to look back. I let my hand stay there until my own breath learned to behave again. "You like the kind of wanting that proves something kindness can't," I said, "not cruel. Cruelty is the lazy substitute for precision. You treat intimacy like a sport and honesty like off-season training." "You like to coach," he said. The corner of his mouth tried to be charming and failed without offense, which is unfair and probably why we have a life instead of a series of projects. "What do you want?" I asked, now not the apology you tuned for daylight. He stepped into the distance that had turned into a lie while we were talking. "I want to go home," he said. "I want you to want me where our towels know our names and the only mouths we owe belong to us. I want to be boring in a way that keeps you interested." Behind him, the suite's door opened a fraction. Mateo stood there with his fingers resting on the jamb like a man who had decided furniture was the moral choice. He didn't apologize. He didn't dare me. He gave me the nod men give when they have chosen not to make a scene and stepped back into the room without making the room complicit. "You don't get to be rescued by poetry," I said to Ethan, "because I have to say it out loud or I will spend a week explaining it to Spoons. You get my mouth or that door. Tonight I'm greedy." His breath hit my name and stayed. I lifted his chin with the same 2 fingers and kissed him. Not hunger first, but relief. Relief is the kind of appetite you can walk home. He leaned into it like paying a debt and liking the math. My palm slid under his shirt to the heat at the small of his back where his body keeps its best arguments. He made that low sound he cannot perform on cue, the one that convinces me our kitchen is holy. The glass threw our outlines at us and they improved us. The city pretended to mind its own business. I stopped before the room could pretend to be a witness. He kept his forehead near mine like punctuation. "Come home," I said. "We'll do sentences in the morning. Verbs cost more, but they're worth it." He nodded, a hinge discovering its use. We passed the suite without slowing. In the elevator, a woman in perfume and intention studied herself and approved. The lobby's piano found a chord for people choosing continuity. Outside, whether politely declined to comment. I liked it better for that. At home, the cinnamon had waited with indecent loyalty. We ate it with our fingers because forks would have lied. He watched my mouth like a man waiting for a door to open and recognizing the handle. I slid my palm under his shirt again and found the heat like an address I cannot forget. He leaned into it with gratitude that made me careful. We were careful in bed, not the kind that kills heat, the kind that knows where to fold it. He knows where to put his palm on my ribs so the rest of me remembers how to turn without arguing. I know where his shoulder hides when it doesn't want to confess, and how to coax it into doing something better than speaking. The night forgave us the way night forgives, by forgetting loudly at noon if you give it a reason. We slept the sleep that has terms and conditions. Morning put a clean shirt on our choices. He made coffee the way he does when he wants me to listen. I opened the windows and let whatever mercy the hour could afford step inside and look around. The motion clip sat between us like a neat little witness. He glanced at it and at me and did the thing he saves for the part of his day that still respects me. He reached for my hand first, then for his defense. He told me the small truths first, the ones that hold the others upright. The notes ran long. The room made the city feel negotiable. The Temptation had an excellent wardrobe. He ran out of script. Then he said the part I could keep. He said he is tired of being interesting for a living. He said he wanted to be wanted the way teenagers are, stupid and earnest and poorly lit. He said he imagined my mouth more than once in that room and felt ashamed of the math. He said he was sorry like a man who knows sorry is a tool, not an eraser. I didn't forgive him at the table. Forgiveness is a daylight animal and morning's charge. I told him to put on the coat that doesn't belong to hotels and walk with me to the canal where water lies about Paris, and we let it. On the bench, we watched gulls fail cheerfully at precision. He hooked his thumb in my pocket like humility. I let him. For a while, we sat without commentary. Then I asked him if he had kept the clip. He said he had tried to delete it, but the archive had already done what archives do. We both laughed, the exhausted kind, and decided to blame software for as much of the night as it could carry without collapsing. 2 days later, I saw Mateo in a lobby that smelled like ambition and lemon. He gave me the nod men give when they have chosen to be furniture on purpose. He didn't apologize, and I didn't deputize. The elevator mirror wrote our names backward, and both of us read them just fine. The old studio still sends me motion clips. I don't trust their fonts or my own inbox. But the apartment smells like cinnamon at 4 p.m. when the light climbs the wall in clean squares. Ethan leans against the counter like a man who expects to be wanted where he lives. My mouth has stopped trying to rescue him and still wants him. If a rectangle of glass tells me again that a door has learned a lie, I will do what I did that night. Find the terrace with air, choose kissing over theater, and walk him home with my hand at the small of his back where his body keeps its best arguments, teaching our door, gently, stubbornly, with as many mistakes as it takes, to open from the inside.